I feel like I'm at a part of my stage of my life where I'm really not interested in letting fear be the thing that dictates my action. There was a certain event that happened in my life where I refused to let fear be the limiting factor, the thing that holds me back, and I'm ready to just dive in.
So that is the voice of Amy.
Join us today as we talk with Amy about her courage as a rock climber and
how she translates or uses that courage as a part of her life as a solitary witch.
But then also as she joined our circle.
Yay! And became a member of our community.
Yeah.
Yay. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Witchy Wit podcast, where we look at life through a witchy lens. I'm Kimberlyn.
I'm Leilani.
At Witchy Wit, we explore current events,
ideas,
music and books,
and experiences in ways that recognize energy and life in everybody and everything.
We are both real witches.
And we bring two real perspectives through the lens of our different ages,
races,
and backgrounds.
With a healthy skepticism for what we have been told is true, our conversations are raw, candid, and vulnerable.
Join us as we cast a spell to uncover what we each know is true in our intuitive, witchy selves.
Welcome to episode 78.
Amy.
From solitary
to circle.
Yay, I'm so excited. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about what that all means. Let's talk about it really quickly.
Well, we have a special guest in our studio. your craft room.
Yes, indeed. And we're going to hear all about her journey.
We are. We're going to hear about her journey from solitary witch to practicing with a circle.
With our circle. Yay! I'm so excited. Okay. But before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happened since the last time we checked in.
That sounds great. Who would like to go first?
Why don't I go first? Okay. So, I meant to look up the term for it, but I've forgotten. I think it's like sarcopenia or something. But anyway, there's a term for as you get older, like you have muscle wasting. Like your muscles waste away. Literally, that's why old people, they can't get getting up from, that's a marker, I think, when you go for a senior, a geriatric screening or whatever, they see if you can get out of the seat without using your hands. Anyway, so you can see my altar over there. Mm-hmm. I have an so for our listeners, I have an altar that's on the floor, and every morning, except when I'm not here, I get up and I light the candles and I sit there and I just meditate for about 5-10 minutes, and then getting up from that has always been a journey until I just thought it was. I think there's a lot of, I don't know, not shame, but I always think I'm like fucked up. Something's wrong with me, right? And then I read just over this past week or so that there's an actual thing that as people get older, it's it's something about the hormones or whatever. Your just muscles get weaker. So I immediately went to my health source, my source for most of my health information, Instagram, and found that there's all these videos. They're wonderful about this exercise that I already started incorporating, where you just go down like knee, and then you get back up. And then you go down to your knee, and then you get back up. And you just do it. When you first start, like where I am now, you use your hands. But the idea being is that you actually build the muscles, just using body weight. And there's tons of videos that are there for seniors to ensure that doesn't, because it doesn't have to happen. I mean, I know you've seen, I don't know, but I have seen videos of seniors, like people in their 80s and 90s who are lifting weights and things like that. So it doesn't have to happen, but it generally does happen because people are not aware that it happens. Mm-hmm. So now I'm aware. And so, we were talking about our check-ins, and I said, mine can be kind of uplifting because I lift myself up at every opportunity, trying not to use my hands as much as possible.
And we will lift each other up.
That's one of our chants. I don't know if you know that one yet. But yeah, so there we go. I'm talking to Amy, who is sitting here as we do our check-in, quietly listening while we just talk past her. And what's going on with you?
So I also had a health check-in.
Because we are, we are two distinct people with different perspectives, etc. But sometimes we're just
sometimes we're
simpatico.
Like, yeah.
Or simpatica.
Yeah. And it's all being wrapped in the framework of the Camino this summer.
Yes, walking, getting up. Yes, exactly.
Like for me, I'm framing a lot of things around the Camino. So we just had, in teacher context, winter break. So I've been off, and so I scheduled doctor's appointments, and I had some blood work done, and the doctor was sharing with me that my blood work revealed that I am 1 point away from being pre-diabetic on my testy thing from my blood. I'm not a healthcare person, so I don't know the name, but I don't remember. But it's like I was 159 out of 160, and 160 is where the pre-diabetic range starts. And it was just a really interesting experience because we've been watching this for a long time. I have some genetic things in my family that predispose me towards like high cholesterol and stuff like that. But I was sitting there, and my doctor's super great. I really like him, and he really looks holistically at me as a whole, which I really appreciate. He also is very interested in not prescribing meds until it's really needed. But my big takeaway from it was how lucky I am that I have a job that provides healthcare. And I believe our healthcare system is pretty imperfect, but at least I have healthcare. And, but like, what would it be like if I didn't have a job where I had healthcare, and so I wasn't monitoring this? Also, like my partner and I are pretty dedicated to living healthily. What would it be like if I didn't have the money or the time or the education to cook healthy meals or the availability of a kitchen? Like, what if I was living in a hotel or in a car? You know, like, just like I was thinking all these things about different ways that people live and how lucky I am to have these things at my disposal. And even so, I'm still in this challenging situation. So I guess it was just like a bittersweet gratitude for it. And then also I texted you and was like, we gotta get going because like Camino's coming up. Like,
well, yes, we do. We'll talk more about that because my other check-in was going to be about prepping for the Camino, but I'll save that for the next thing. But thank you so much for sharing that, because even when I think about my things, I forget the blessings. I forget that I have availability to. I have the holy Instagram to share information.
Yes.
And I have internet, and I have a computer or a phone. Right. And I have the time to actually do those exercises. Right. So thank you so much for helping me to kind of reframe that. You helped me to reframe. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for being someone that I can check in with.
Yay.
And thank you, Amy, for being here.
Absolutely. And sitting through this. So yeah, let's go ahead and just dive in, shall we?
So our title is From Solitary to Circle. And we have the blessing of having Amy here.
Hello.
Yay!
And so we wanted to interview you to chat about your journey before that led you to meeting us, and then the journey from maybe deciding how you felt about practicing with a group, and then the process.
but totally go in whatever direction you want.
The process of joining our circle, and then what it was like for you to step foot in our circle and practice with us.
Fantastic.
So
before we do all of that, though, let's get a chance to get to know who you are a little bit, or at least be able to identify you. So would you share with us like what you prefer to be called, and how you identify?
Yes. My name is Amy. My pronouns are she, her, they. I am Hispanic. Let's see. I work in healthcare. As far as hobbies, I am a rock climber. That is the thing that I do. It is my free therapy. It's also my community, and it's how I actually got to meet Leilani. Yeah. So many years ago. But yeah, that's me.
Yay, thank you.
And then would you care to how would you identify spiritually?
I think for now more than ever, especially having joined the circle and being exposed to, so many different perspectives, which was one of the things that I was most excited about. I would say that I'm still kind of sorting that out. Mm-hmm. As a solitary, I found that it was a little difficult to identify with one thing in particular, just because so many of these groups tend to be either initiatory or, you know, there's like almost like a list of requirements. And I kind of liked having the freedom of being able to include things that I felt resonated with me. So I think most people would describe that as eclectic.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
But I guess that's where I am right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
I really feel like our circle's eclectic.
I think, hopefully you'll feel that way too and be able to find, the things that you need to nourish you. But we'll talk more about that in a second. But I just want to jump in terms of your rock climbing.
Yes.
It was so exciting. First of all, because I think Leilani told me about you like years ago and mentioned you just in passing as, like a member of the community at the gym, even though she does different things and the rock climbing. And it just sounds so exciting. And someone who is kind of committed to that. And do you mind sharing a little bit more about that? What does that look like for you?
Oh my goodness. The places I've been able to go because of climbing and the people that I've met, it's been a wonderful journey. I think it's definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone on definitely more than one occasion. And it's been able to translate into moments in my life where I'm able to manage moments of stress much differently, I think, than most. Just because there have been many times where I've been placed in a mindset where, it's either I keep myself together or I risk injuring myself or the person that I'm climbing with if I'm sport climbing. So having the wherewithal to just, be able to kind of keep things in perspective and just like, I need to be able to keep my wits about me and try and make it to the next spot, to see, how we can finish this section of the climb if I'm doing a multi-pitch. But there have been times where it's just like, I have been scared out of my mind. And it's like, I am not going to let this shut me down. My journey can either end here, whether, I decide to bail out, or I can just push past this moment and see where I can go.
It's inspiring and scary as shit.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So it's not just me.
No, there have been times where I'm like on the wall. We were just like, it was a multi-pitch climb and we're literally hanging off the side of a mountain. And this was a poorly planned, project. And it was windy. I couldn't hear my partner. And I was like angrily crying. And I was like, this is so stupid. Why did I do this? And then I was like, okay, whatever. We're here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go. And it all worked out. It was, I often refer to climbing and most of our experiences as type 2 fun. In the moment, it sucks. You're questioning why you picked this as a hobby. Like, why do you keep doing it? But then when it's all said and done, I was like, guys, that was really fun. Yeah. Oh my God, I can't wait to come back.
You need the perspective, or you need to be done almost, I guess, to really know how much fun it was. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I didn't mean to cite, to take us away, but I really, really appreciate that because she told me that and it just captures my imagination. So. Yeah.
I'm always keeping an eye on the women in the gym because I think it's a largely male dominated.
Oh yes, it is.
And to see a woman really be a powerhouse. I love watching women flourish in that environment, and it's kind of cool. I think
I definitely find myself like quietly, like cheering people on, like absolute strangers. If I watch them climb, like if I've seen that they're fairly new to the gym. And I see them moving, like they look like they're moving past their comfort zone. I am like just kind of cheering them on from the side. But if, I always get excited when I see, and I would be lying if I didn't say I wouldn't. I get excited when I see another female come into the gym and it looks like they're sticking with it because it can be an intimidating space with it being mostly males in the gym. And I think because of the gym that we're part of, it's a fairly small community, so it's easier to kind of interact and just be like, hey, I saw you up there. You looked amazing, and just kind of give out that encouragement that sometimes I think we all need just to be like, okay,
for sure,
I'm going to stick with this.
Yay, for sure. Thank you. So may I ask, so this is kind of coming back, and I'd love to hear if, to the extent that you're comfortable sharing, how did you get to witchiness? How did you, first of all, we say witch, but does that term resonate for you, or is there a term that sits better?
I think it's something. It's a word that I've always been. The only way I can describe it is kind of a romantic idea of what it is, just because of its history, the connotations that have been associated with it, and then growing up in a time where there was a lot of scare around witches and the goth scene and kids that were always dressed in black, and there was this.
All three of us are in black.
Okay, well, there you go.
It was just like there was this panic around this subculture that people were throwing out there. And, around the time that I was growing up, the Craft, the movie The Craft just kind of blew it out.
Yes, yeah.
And it made it almost made it accessible to, these teens that were just trying to put a name or, kind of find a direction as to what they were experiencing or what they had a longing for. Mm-hmm. And I found that I was kind of part of that group where, you had this allure to the occult, or you wanted to know more about esoteric matters, and just like, what is this world? And you see The Craft, it's like, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I want to do that. I want to find my people, and I want to learn more about how I can dive into that.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, that was kind of my introduction, and then it kind of started with a more focus was probably around middle school.
Mm-hmm. Whoa, okay.
And finding like random books, and I was gifted this one book where it talked about candle magic and certain symbols, and learning more about that, and yeah, that was kind of my introduction.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
And can you speak a little bit about your journey as an adult? How has your spirituality grown or changed or shifted or focused as an adult?
I think because of the fact that when I was growing up, I was not raised in a religious home at all. Okay. There wasn't any customs, or we didn't have any kind of like set practice in the home. Like my mom, she herself considers herself as a spiritual person, but I maybe went to church a handful of times growing up. But it never like really took hold where I felt like, yes, this is what feels, right to me. And as far as, my interest in the craft and, things of that matter, it was something that I dabbled in for quite a long time, up until recently, where, a lot of shifts in my life occurred where I felt it important to start focusing on things that I felt true to me. Coming back to things that I wanted to kind of further flesh out as, parts of my personality. And it's like, I don't want to ignore this part of myself anymore. So I took a dive down the rabbit hole as far as consuming information as to, different practices. How do people go about finding groups? And I do consider myself an introvert, reaching out to groups and reaching out to people. It sounds terrifying to me. I have a very low social media presence as it is, and being able to find, people of that circle, it seemed a little out of my capacity. So I just read a lot and started adopting, practices that I felt like worked well for me. Tarot being one of them. I know. And just, meditating and incorporating like a journal aspect with the tarot. And, it's just, it's still a developing journey, I think. But now that I've found the circle, and I'm going to be part of that adventure now. I'm just excited to see where we go from here.
Thank you. So one of the things, before we dive into your experience in the circle, now that you've gotten a little bit of a taste, because we can talk exactly what that looks like, but a little bit of a taste of practicing in circle, what are some of the things that you would say you really maybe treasure or prefer about being solitary?
I I think it would be the freedom of being able to incorporate whatever makes sense for me in that moment. I feel very comfortable pulling from different sources and applying them to how I see fit, and not feeling this restriction to, well, if I'm of this particular practice, this has to be done this way. No, it's just me locked up in a room and, finding my own journey and just delighting in, what discoveries I make from there.
That sounds so exciting.
It has been. There have been a lot of, questionable moments, but I think as a solitary, you're not doubting yourself as much because you don't have people around you kind of making, suggestions that make you question what it is that you're experiencing. And you kind of have this sense of, it's a sense of development as far as independence with how you apply your experiences to future practices and how you want to make up your own rituals, and it's kind of liberating.
It sounds like this accountability, like you are in charge.
Yes,
you have no one else to blame. No one else to credit. And so as long as you're not burning down the house or if that's your jam, don't let us stop you.
No, but I think that's exactly it. It's just like there are some pros and cons. The being able to have that freedom, but at the same time, I have a lot of questions. And they're, now knowing what it's like to be with other people in a ritual-like setting, there's definitely this difference in energy. I mean, there's absolutely more of it, first of all. But just seeing how other people choose to lay out a ritual and the things that they'd like to incorporate. Again, it's opening a lot of new doors, and it's building, this more excitement and making it leads me to believe that I am definitely on the right path.
Yeah.
That's cool. Maybe you could share with us, if you're comfortable, what was it like for you to reach out or be curious about or decide to expand your practice into working with a group?
Well, first of all, I think it was knowing you that made that incredibly easy.
Yay!
Getting the chance to talk to you, and you were very kind with humoring all my weird questions, and you making it feel, you created a space for me to ask these questions, and otherwise I don't think I would have found the circle or would have approached you guys as far as just even throwing out a letter like, hey, I'm interested, I would not have had the courage to do that. And of course the podcast, if I could say that,
yes, you can.
I think it's the knowing that there are other people out there like you. It's one thing to read it in a book, but when you get to hear the voice and you get to hear the excitement and you hear that energy behind the stories, you get excited yourself, and you want to, it encourages you to put forth the effort to, like, you know what, I'm going to send that email. I'm going to craft this email and I'm going to send it out there and just see what happens. And, I really hope they pick me. There's that aspect of it too. Mm-hmm. But again, I was still, I was a little scared, because it was a process. But as far as, the way I crafted that initial email, it was done with, clear intent, and I was very focused on making it a sincere request. And, for better or for worse, I knew that, I put my heart into it, and I was just going to see where it took me.
Yeah.
It was really interesting, like, figuring out that you had been listening to the podcast regularly, because I would walk into the gym, or you would walk into the gym, and then we would start talking, and you would know things that I hadn't told you. And I would turn to my partner, I'd be like, I don't know where she's getting this information. Like, how does she know these things about me? And then it took me a while to figure out, like, oh, I said that on a podcast. oh, that means that you're listening
to the podcast.
Oh, that means that you have some sort of investment in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it signaled to me that you were, not that there's a link between people who listen to our podcast and people who go to our circle, because there are people who don't. But it signaled to me that pursuing this sort of spiritual practice was something you were interested in. And some context to our listeners, like you and I are in proximity to each other, and I think you and I have meaningful interactions, but we don't like hang out. I actually don't even know your last name.
Which you're not going to say right now. But.
You know, like I don't know your last name. Like when you sent me your email, I was like, I wonder if that's her last name. You know, I don't know. I just like, we are in proximity because we go to we share space together.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know you, and I feel like I know your energy more than I know you.
Which I think is probably the most important thing.
I agree. I would agree. Yay.
Yeah. So when you were considering joining our circle, what are the things that were important to you as you were navigating that process? Like, what were values or things that you were hoping or you were wanting to show up in a shared space?
I remember it being one of the questions that I asked as far as, you know, the other people that were involved in the circle, you know, like what are their backgrounds? You know, what are the dynamics of the group? And I thought, you know, one of the things that definitely like cued me into this being, you know, something that I wanted to pursue was how diverse the group is. It was very encouraging knowing that you had people of different belief backgrounds that were still coming into this circle and honoring that, you know, with those, you know, aspects in mind. That was important to me as well. And, you know, once we got started into the process of joining, hearing, you know, some of the kind of the rules that the group abides by, you know, there being kind of an accountability that everyone holds each other to as far as respect, and, you know, that being applied to many different aspects, you know, just of each other's beliefs, and, you know, that helped kind of guide that decision. Knowing that there was a diverse age group as well, you know, that excited me the most. You know, being able to learn from, you know, the I guess my elders.
The elders.
Is the way to, you know, to put it. It's you know, that's some serious untapped knowledge. You know, you're sipping from a well. It's just like, this person has lived. They have some stories,
yes,
and I want to hear all of them.
I think that's really cool, because for me, the agreements that we use were central to what signaled for me to join.
I remember like you were kind of, are they say it, do they mean it?
Do they do it? Yeah. Yeah. And I was hesitant to join for a while. But another thing that you said that I thought was really interesting was that you were wanting to join, but it seems like you were looking for validation that this was a place that was appropriate to you. Not that you were wanting to make sure we fit you, not shaping yourself to fit us.
And I think that's important, you know, on many different levels, not just, you know, where you are with your own practice, but there's a lot of development that occurs with, you know, you coming into your own as a person, you know, realizing that you don't have to change who you are to fit in with a circle that's not being your authentic self, which I think is important, you know, just for daily living as well as your practice. You know, you have to be able to, because to me, I saw it as like I was entering a relationship. You know, you have to approach it with that same level of care and respect. And, you know, if I'm not showing up authentically, you know, I can't expect that from, you know, the people that I'm sitting across. And, you know, that's something would, you know, rear its ugly head if you know, if I was lying to myself or, you know, the other people.
Yeah.
I love that thought of being in relationship, right? You know, that's, and I think for a long time, until we kind of changed our structure, I think a lot of times when people can't, I have no idea, but the impression I got when they came was that there wasn't that kind of intentionality. It was more kind of showing up and then seeing, and, you know, maybe then saying, okay, this is great, I like it, or whatever. But I love the idea that you showed up with this intention to figure out what is the interaction. So I appreciate that. And I hope you could tell us maybe, how did you feel going through our process? Our process has become a little bit more rigorous from the past in terms of interviewing and accepting new women. And so as you went through the process, if you care to share, and, you know, to the extent that you're comfortable and want to, how did you feel?
If anything, it ensured a bit of safety, knowing that there was such, a process to kind of vet for this person. And it's like, you know, make sure that you're not inviting someone who could possibly be bringing some pretty toxic energy. Because, you know, this is it's a sacred space. It's like you're inviting someone into your home, into your family. You know, you don't want to invite that kind of energy and, you know, have it kind of spill out to the rest of the group. And I thought that was incredibly important, that, again, you bring your most authentic self to the forefront, because, you know, you can spot a phony. if not you, the rest of the group will. And I think that's important, that, you know, you don't lie to these people. Because, again, this will be your family. You're sharing some very vulnerable aspects of yourself. And, you know, I thought that it was important that, you know, I be patient, because it was a process.
We're not the most timely groups.
I did that.
I was very appreciative that, you know, everyone was very careful on how, you know, we were spending our time with each other, from the questions that were being asked to the interactions. You know, you have to ensure that the person that you're inviting in is going to have the wherewithal to, you know, be able to bring in, you know, the energy that's required for the group, but also whether they're in that appropriate space or not, you know, they will be able to do the work while with the group to ensure that, you know, they're not bringing, I hesitate to say baggage, but that's kind of what it is. You know, you don't want to bring that into the circle and kind of, like, you know, be the dark cloud, you know, be the poison.
Yeah.
I just got lost in her words, and I totally lost where we were.
I
just want to share that. Like, I was listening, I'm like, yeah. And then I came up, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, so there was an application process where you had to hopefully dive deep into your thinking, and then the interviewing process, and I think this is where you were, and how your reactions to that.
There was a list of questions that I was sent, and my approach to that from, other authors that I've read, it's like when you're applying for a group, when you're seeking out, a group to join, you want to be as, you want your answers to be as thought out as possible. Be serious. Take this as serious as possible. And, it was almost like a love letter in a way. I sat with this for a long time. I was like, man, I haven't been in school in a while, but this is like an essay.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind approaching and devoting that time, because again, I wanted to really put myself out there, because if this is the payoff would have been the return, as far as the return would have been, finding a group that I can feel comfortable with. Because again, whether it's your solitary practice, or now I know that, if you're practicing with other people, those moments are going to be very vulnerable. You're exposing a lot of yourself. I'm not going to waste my time or, the person or the group's time by giving these fictitious answers. It's like, I'm showing you what, I'm feeling. This is who I am. You're kind of vetting each other. It's like,
yeah.
Are you an appropriate fit for me? Because that's also part of the process. But I took that application process pretty seriously, and I was just like, I'm just going to put this out there and hope for the best.
Thank you. What I hear is this idea that, by bringing your authentic self there, not only, so if you had lied, and you might have been accepted, and then would we be able to give you what you needed? Yeah. Right? Because we accepted you thinking this is what you needed, and are we the group? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so by really being authentic and honest and vulnerable in your answers, you have a better sense of whether or not this really is a good fit by how they respond to your responses, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So then we invited you to come to a potluck, and this.
So would you explain what that means?
So it's like a shared time where we do like ritual light.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a non-ritual.
It's a non-ritual.
Yes, mm-hmm. It's not associated with the Sabbath.
Yes, mm-hmm. But I do think that our non-rituals still have some.
We're very ritualistic.
Right.
We're trancy.
Yeah. So, we share space with each other in a circle shape, where we sing, and then we normally do some sort of offering, mm-hmm. And that can just like our rituals are very eclectic. These potlucks are very eclectic. They can go from storytelling to movement based mm-hmm. to different women sharing memories of mm-hmm. the group, to talking about different ways to be involved in the group. Like, it's just each potluck has a different focus depending on who is spearheading that, mm-hmm. and then it can show up and be speaky or listeny or movementy or foody. I don't know. It could be like what the sky is a limit, mm-hmm. and then we share food mm-hmm. afterwards. So I'd be curious to know, what was it like for you to enter into that space the first time
with a bunch of people you didn't know?
Yeah.
I felt like a giddy little kid. I was so excited because, it's just like when I walked in today. It's just like, wow, this is really happening. This is so great. You walk into the buildings and you're hit with this energy by everyone being present that, even if it was something as, casual as the potluck, it's not even all that casual, mm-hmm. Whether you intend to or not. When you're there amongst, your people, you are already, bringing forth this energy, this vibe where it's just, and you start singing and it's just like, wow, this is nice. It starts feeling like a warm blanket, and then it's like you're surrounded by all these wonderful people whom you don't really know all that much about. Mm-hmm. But, when you're sitting around them, and when we got to, the meal portion of the potluck, and people, are just having casual conversations like, wow, this is a really powerful lady. Like, these are some really cool people. Mm-hmm. It's like it was just a powerful sense of personalities and stories, and the way everyone expresses themselves. Like, these people are so cool.
Yay. Well, yay. Yay. I'm so glad. And then you're also contributing to that too, right? Because so we have this energy that you stepped into, and then theoretically you brought some energy to it too, right?
I would like to think so. Aside from like the again, feeling like a giddy child, just like taking everything in. Mm-hmm. But once we, started, getting into, some of the music, I immediately found myself kind of overcome by some of the words, and then feeling like my lungs filling with air to really give out the energy for the song. It's like, wow. Mm-hmm. This is so great. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. It's just simply put, it's like, I am so happy to be here.
Yay.
I think this is a testament to finding the shoe that fits.
Yes.
To use like a really mundane metaphor. And I love our circle. It has changed my life. And the connections I've made, have and will change my life, And I don't think it's the right fit for everyone, and I don't think that that's a judgment on everyone. But there's so many different ways of practicing. I'm thinking of like a high priestess model for a group, or like you mentioned earlier in the episode of like groups that have like very rigorous and
more static, or
like it starts with an I, like the practice of joining the group.
Initiation.
Thank you. You used the word initiation. I was trying to remember the word you used. Like initiatory practices, and I think all of those groups serve different purposes and meet different needs for different people. And I wonder if it might be validating for you to step into a group that feels right, knowing, like what you said, that maybe that's a validation that this is a group that might fit you, and that you might fit.
No, absolutely. I think the fact that I don't want to say it's not as structured, but I think when in a space with that diverse of a group, the energy is going to take you, wherever it wants. You might suggest a song, and then seeing, the reaction from the group is like, yes, let's sing that. Let's sing that next, please. There's a format that, the intention to follow a format is definitely there. But, if we get off topic, or if somebody else wants to sing a song, and it's like, all right, that's where we're going. And, there's, it isn't as regimented as I imagine other practices would be. There's definitely, it's just, bring yourself, let yourself be the thing that steps forward, and we'll see where this is going. Being able to see how some people would prefer to sit and sing, and others, they're standing, they're swaying, there's expression. Yes, they are dancing. And instruments are involved. It's like a hippie circle.
I think so.
Now, and again, you're talking. So that's mainly our little chant thing beforehand in our potluck. So you also came to the ritual.
Yes.
So would you care to share your thoughts about that?
Oh, the ritual. The ritual, it was unlike anything I'd seen, of course, because this was my first time with the circle. But as far as how it was structured, there was a certain sense of familiarity, but the how everyone was asked to kind of assume a role, and the what we were attempting to do that evening, there was a moment where we're standing and we're silent, and what comes up, and for me in that moment, there was a lot of emotion that I was not expecting, and it just came right up, and all of a sudden I could feel tears going down my face, and I was feeling super vulnerable, and I, for the briefest of moments, was concerned about, oh my God, what does this look like? And it's like, everyone's kind of in their own world right now. We're all in this practice. So, everyone's kind of in their own little element, and I just let it take over. And again, the thing that comes up every time, it was very vulnerable. But at some point, I felt held, because, this is a space where I feel very supported, and, you're not going to get looked at like, why are you having this reaction that seems, so off for what we're trying to complete here. Everything's welcomed. If that's what comes up for you, I felt confident that if I were to turn over and ask for help, I felt like I would have been met with that, and that's it's incredibly comforting.
So I'd like to say that thank you so much for sharing that, first of all, and I think that some of that or a lot of that is a testament to your willingness to kind of dive in there and open up, because it's a very, I would imagine, pretty intimidating.
It was.
So because a number of groups, their rituals aren't as participatory. It's I don't want to. Ritual theater has kind of a a negative connotation, but where you're holding the space, you're part of holding the space, but not necessarily a part of it. And so one of the things that we've been tending to encourage is that. But I can imagine for someone coming in new, fortunately you had the potluck, that could be intimidating.
I just didn't know if that was expected. It's just like there was a part of me, I had my eyes closed the whole time, and I was standing, but there was, I got the sense of, I was like, well, what is everybody else feeling? Is this what's supposed to come up? But, I took it in stride, and, I'm glad that I held out, because afterwards, I went home floating. I felt so awake and light, and I went home and I hugged my dog, and I felt happy. Like it felt almost like a therapy session. I was like, this feels amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yay! That's how I come out. I mean, different ways, but yay. That sounds. I just love hearing this.
It was
from
a beautiful
someone,
experience.
Because we're kind of used to it. So, and we also have our experiences too. But it's so wonderful to hear someone who has not. I mean, this is your first ritual with us, and the fact that you felt comfortable opening up, and because you opened up, like like a water hose. Okay.
I think that speaks a lot to what you're bringing, because as much as this process is us interviewing you, you're also interviewing us. And the fact that you were willing to step in and to be curious and to be vulnerable says a lot about what I would describe as courage. Like, courage to me is being vulnerable and afraid and doing it anyways. And so I think that's interesting that you were so willing to come and to open up and to be open to those experiences, even though it was like a new circle for you.
I feel like I'm at a part of my stage of my life where I'm really not interested in letting fear be the thing that dictates my action.
Go girl.
As there was a certain event that happened in my life where I refused to let fear be the limiting factor, the thing that holds me back, and I'm ready to just dive in. I'm going to, of course, assess and kind of outline what are my expectations, but at the same time, I'm diving in with, open mind, open heart, and I just don't want to be afraid anymore. And as far as, meeting a circle that encourages love to be at the forefront of, how you conduct yourself in life, that was a big check for me. I was like, yes, because that's what I've been saying. And, this is something that, this is, what the group wants to abide by. I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Yay.
So I'm curious if, as you move forward, because so you did share with us that that you are wanting to continue to come.
Absolutely.
So
I'm sorry. I think you said that a number of times, but I can't hear it enough. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Because we do offer. I mean, any woman is welcome to not come, like if she chooses not to. But we do offer specific off ramps of like, would you like to continue, just to make it even more accessible to leave, or to not attend if the new people are not jamming with or vibing or whatever. So I'm curious, since you have signaled that you are interested in continuing, what excites you? What are your worries? What are your questions? Like, what are you looking for? What are you like? What's kind of floating around in your heart and in your mind?
I think anytime you are involved in a group, there's always a mild concern for group dynamics. And I know that
not just mild.
We're like, not mild for us.
I've not met every person in the circle. And, I think as far as, again, one of the things that, the circle encourages is to think well of everyone, to just always assume that everyone's trying their best. They have good intentions too. But, it's not something that I'm going to carry with me as far as like, well, wait, I'm waiting for that first, negative interaction. But, it's just, I think with the jobs that I've had and the life experience that I've had so far, I make the best of every social interaction. I've had my fair share of people that they left the house just hell-bent on just being that person, that really negative person. And I'm just not going to carry that with me. And that's like, that's okay. That's your problem. I'm going to do my thing over here. But, it's just like while in circle, we're just going to do the best to keep the peace and get along. But otherwise, that's like a far back burner type concern. I am just more excited for all the future adventures and exposure to, seeing how, I guess the craft is filtered through all these different type of people and their experiences, and seeing how we can kind of make a merriment of it.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I like that. A magical merriment. Yes. Yay. So as we move into coming to a close, what are some of the what's some advice that you would give to someone thinking about looking for practicing with a group?
I would say be patient with the process. And I mean that as far as like be patient with yourself and
not just the half-assed group you're working with.
And not just, the groups that you're interested in and participating with. Because you may find that at some point along the way that's not something you're interested in anymore. That it no longer, it no longer piques your interest. And to take in as much information as you can. Don't be afraid to read books that are maybe, outside of your interests, that could, open your eyes to a different perspective, or, maybe down a different practice. And when it comes to that time to, reach out to a group, be serious about your correspondence. Be courteous, definitely, just little things like look for, putting concise language, look at punctuation. I feel like these are all the things that are going to be considered. It's like, show that you are serious. And if that's something that, they pick up on, great. If, you don't hear from them, that's fine too. You have, that'll be your time to just continue working on your solitary practice. But I think once you feel like you're ready as a person on an emotional and, spiritual level, definitely start searching. It's just be brave. Be brave.
I like that.
So we've gotten to know you and your journey, deciding to join and the process of joining and then experiencing a potluck and a ritual. We were just curious if there was anything on your mind that you had questions about. As we've both been, so you've been in a part of the circle longer than I have. I'm approaching 20 years, by the way.
Damn.
In our circle.
So yeah,
you were.
Yeah, I was there before that.
Yes.
So I've only been in town 23 years, so it's up to there. But yeah. Wow. Okay. Anyway, your question.
Anyways, is there anything that's on your mind, or anything that you were curious about, or
that we might know the answer to?
Well, I'm just interested, since you have both been part of this circle, for a while, but also for the length of time that the both of you have been practicing, I'm sure you've seen many shifts and changes as far as the accessibility and just, how people choose to practice. Do you guys have any recommendations for people that are interested in either joining a group, or even, how one could possibly enhance their solitary practice? Because I think when, you start this journey, it's like you feel this longing to develop this part of yourself. I think there's a lot of questions like, how do I do this? There's always this idea of right and wrong, and I wish more people would pull away from that, but it's something that comes up. It's like, is this the right way to do this?
Sure. Okay, I'll start. So I would say, as a part of the search and maybe interview or initiation process, actually coming back to something that you said, that, being really, really intentional, because even if you decide that that group is not for you, answering the questions, going through whatever their process is, learning about the group can only help me at going through that process understand myself better. So like I can do all of the things, learn about the group, and every time I read something about it, said, that's not landing, or, oh, holy shit, I've got to get there as soon as possible, because that tells me something about myself. So even if I get to the end of that and I say, that group really isn't for me, I still have learned more about myself that I could probably use as I practice by myself while I continue, while I look at the next group, or while I continue to explore the possibility of practicing in community. And so I think that the process of actually searching and learning about groups can be really, really rich and really fulfilling, if that makes any sort of sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that part of the challenge for finding a spiritual home, whenever I practice this way, is that there's finding a church is relatively easy because they're everywhere and they're present, and they're
they're actually trying to get you.
That's true. But they're advertised and things, and this can be a little more tricky, but one of the things that you said that really vibed with me, that I thought was really affirming, is finding that energy that fits what you're looking for. And so for me, the way I was translating it was being really clear with what I was seeking. Am I looking for more of a removed ritual theater experience where I go and I sit and then I watch and I hold energy for the ritual that's happening in the center? Or am I wanting to be a part of that ritual? Am I wanting to be a part of that energy? Those two things are very different. And as you were talking, I was like, well, maybe that's something we should be more clear about. It's something I'm going to be more clear about from now on, especially with newer women. And then also looking for things that help signal that this is the type of community I'm looking for. For me, it was seeing the agreements. When I saw the agreements listed on the Circle's website, that was a green flag for me.
Absolutely.
Now waiting to see if we followed them.
Because everybody can say that,
yes,
right?
Yeah. I was like, sure, we'll see. And
she was like, sure, we'll see. For how long?
For years. For 2 years. But eventually I think I could tell that the group's integrity was that we were all working towards following them. Now, we're all human and perfection is never going to happen. But finding those green flags that signal that this is the type of group, because not every group is the right fit for everyone, and that's not a function of the group being bad. It's just a function of groups being different and offering different things.
We're so wise, or we're so us, which could be wise.
I think we're awesome.
Yeah. Badass.
And I think it's funny that you mentioned the whole participation aspect, because that wasn't something that I really asked a whole lot about.
And now you wish you had.
No, I'm glad I didn't ask any other questions, because it definitely left the possibilities open. And when I first came in, it was another one of those, getting out of my comfort zone. I don't know if I had been, presented with that information beforehand, would I come in with that same kind of energy? Because it was the surprise where it's like, oh, okay, we're all going to get up and sing a song now. Okay, well, all right then.
Alrighty then.
And you this again, you're finding out things about yourself where it's just like, I do like to get up and sing in a circle. This is great.
We had gone over, I remember we had talked about the different parts of a ritual beforehand. And I'm like, yeah, so then we normally do something like this, and then we'll do something like this, and then we'll do something, and then we'll do the ritual workings, and that's the tofu-y part of the ritual. And then how we do the workings, I had not considered. Yeah. You're going to be involved, and you're going to be offered the opportunity to be involved and experience it in your own. Oh my goodness!
And And it's hard to say because every time it's going to be different.
Every ritual is different. For us.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So now we know some other things that we need to say about, when we talk to people about us. Yeah.
What a cool like actual example in real time.
Thank you for feedback.
Of us the value of like us getting feedback and then us accepting feedback and constantly continually growing and changing.
Yes, exactly. And one other thing about this, and so we were talking about feedback, but the feedback actually helps us to be better at doing what our group needs, and you're part of that group. So, that's one of the things as we talk about feedback that I hope people get is that when you're doing that, you're just helping us to be better, So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my pleasure.
Our poem today is actually going to be read by our guest or / co-host, Amy. And would you like to tell us a little bit about the poem?
So it's actually from the Book of Prayers to the Goddess. It's a moon cycle devotion. And it's a book written by Genevieve Chavez Mitchell and Ann Key. And it's called My Genuine Self. And it's going back to, being able to kind of remind myself that every day it's going to be a daily effort to put forth my most authentic self. I think sometimes in our day-to-day lives, we get so sidetracked with the lists and obligations and doing all the adult things that we need to remember that we need to come back to this kind of home space of genuine self, and I guess, again, being brave enough to do that, because this was an act of bravery. Just being able to first identify as a witch. I would say, I would go as far as to say that this is almost like an act of me coming out of the broom closet, because as of today, aside from Leilani and maybe like 3 other people, there aren't no one else that's like actively knows this information
about you.
Like if it doesn't come up, I just don't talk about it. But yeah, that's
yay, you're so brave.
I never heard you use the W word before describing this moment. I'm like, oh, she said it. She said
You're so brave. We love it. We love it. Thank you for modeling bravery for us.
Oh,
bravery
thank you for holding that space. Okay, so the poem is My Genuine Self. I plant my feet firmly beneath me and lift my eyes to the heavens, seeking your help. Show me compassion through this day. Allow me to see your divinity within myself. Bless me with equanimity, that I may walk this day and every day in my deepest truth, in my deepest love, as my genuine self.
So mote it be.
So mote it be. That's fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your journey with our listeners.
Thank you so much for having that bravery.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to our listeners for holding the space for us to share with you.
We hope you have enjoyed the magic that has unfolded here at Witchy Wit.
It would be great if you would help make Witchy Wit possible and get access to exclusive content by donating on Patreon.
We'd love it if you join our Witchy community and enjoy shareable content on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Would you do us a big favor and support us by rating and reviewing us wherever you get your podcasts? It's free and helps witchy folks find us.
Feel free to email us at witchywitpodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from our community. Reach out and let us know what's brewing in your cauldron.
New episodes are released every second and fourth Friday. Follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so our episodes go right to your playlist. You can listen as you ride your broom.
Stay witchy, y'all!